Hi and welcome back to my channel. In this video we will be painting this sweet little dog in watercolour. I'm Helen Campbell and this channel is all about building your confidence as a watercolourist, particularly so if you're new to painting. It can be really demoralising if you spend quite a bit of time on a painting only to find that the results are really not what you expected. So in this video we will be using a limited palette with simple to follow washes so that you get fast results and a painting that you can be proud of. Before we get started, if you're new here, you may want to consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss any future videos coming up every Tuesday. And without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I always start my paintings with a simple line drawing, as you can see here, and if you'd like to know how I do my line drawings, then please click on the information card that is on your screen right now. So we have the drawing down. Now we need to decide on the base colour for this little dog. And as always, I have my colour chart here with all the colours that are in my palette in the order that they are set out. And I'm just looking at the colour that I'd like to use as a base tone, and I'm going to go with burnt umber. And if you'd like to know how to make this colour chart, once again, the information card is on your screen right now. So I have set out my jar of water, I've got my colour chart, my kitchen towel to dab my brush on, and we are good to go. The paper that I'm using is Rowney mixed media at £160, and the brush I have in my hand here is from Rosemary Co, and it's a number 6 size spotter, but use any brush that you can. Don't worry about having exact equipment. These tutorials are all about simplifying the process. So to begin with, we're going to work wet on wet, by which I mean just dipping my brush into water and covering the entire dog with water like this. This forms a layer in which to drop in the paint. So wherever you're putting the water is where your paint will go. I'm not going to put the water on the collar of the dog because this is going to be a different colour, like this. So looking at my colour chart, I've decided to use burnt umber, so I'm just adding a little bit of pigment to the water that I have on my palette, and now we're going to drop that in. Really, really simple and really, really quick. Like this. Now, a couple of mistakes here, which I will show you how to remedy. I have here a flat synthetic brush, and this is really good. Dip it in the water, and you can, if you've gone outside the pencil line, you can just move it away like that. We can let that dry and come on to the other washes once it's entirely dry. I'm going to start building up a few layers here and there to give this dog a little bit of dimension. So I have on my palette a mix of the original wash that we've done, which is burnt umber on its own, and here is a mix of burnt umber with a little bit of Payne's grey, and I'm just going to go through the dog bit by bit and applying this for a little bit of contrast here and there. So I'm applying a little bit of paint in the corner of the ear. And what we do with watercolour is build it up layer by layer. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this here. This brush I'm using is a number 2, and just blend in your soft edges like so. And I'm going to put a little bit of this colour on the outside edge of the ear just here. And I'm going to work through this in time lapse. So you saw me there doing a plain water glaze over everything. Now, as I said, don't worry that it looks a little bit patchy at this stage. That's perfectly normal. But while I'm waiting for this to dry, there are a couple of things I'd like to do. I'm going to add a little bit of colour to the collar here, and I've decided to paint it a sort of reddy tone. And if you are joining in with this tutorial, pick whatever colour you want to. I'm going to go with a little bit of permanent rose here, with maybe a small bit of transparent orange, or any red or whatever colour you like. So I've mixed here a sort of reddish tone, and I'm going to paint this all over the collar with my number 2 size brush. So all over in one go, and then we can add a little bit of form to it later. The dog is actually sitting on a shelf, so we're going to put a little bit of, we'll go with Payne's Grey again. Just going to put a really easy wash underneath the dog. And I'm just cleaning my brush in the water, patting it on my kitchen roll and just blurring out the edge. And just soften that edge out. So now I'm going to go back to the collar and my number 2 size brush, and I'm picking up the red tone with a little bit of the colour that I have mixed here, and I'm just going to add this into where the collar meets the other part of the collar, just to give it a bit more form. So a little bit of red with a little bit of that colour. We can just drop that in there. I'm going to blend it out in a moment. We're going to be outlining this anyway. It's going to be a line and wash. The idea here is that the dog isn't going to look a realistic dog. It's going to be just a cute little illustration. Because it's mixed media paper, it's very easy to use with watercolour. It actually takes it really, really well. Blending it out by patting it and pulling it into the paint like this, and you'll see how these colours merge together really nicely like this. I'm going to let that settle, and now I'm going to switch my attention back to the dog. Okay, I just put another layer of Payne's Grey underneath here, and now we can go back to the dog and start to give it a lot more form. So going back to the mix that I had done of Payne's Grey along with a little bit of burnt umber, and again working through section by section, and I'm going to start with this bit here, just where the ear meets the face of the dog. Clean your brush, pat it on the kitchen roll, and with your damp brush you're just blending that colour, and I'm going to continue the rest of this speeded up for you. Okay, so you saw me there again in time lapse, just adding a water glaze to the end of it, and we're now going to put a few more bits of colour here and there prior to putting in the line and wash. And remember what I said at the outset of this tutorial, when you're working in watercolour, it does look very disjointed as we work through. As you can see here, by looking at this little dog, it looks really wrong. That is something that you can't avoid, and it's perfectly normal, and is in fact something that used to put me off at the very beginning when I was teaching myself how to paint. I used to think, at this point, I've ruined it and tear it up, but it really, really isn't. So always stick with it, and remember, it really is just a process. So I have done a few paintings of animals lately. I am by profession a botanical artist. In fact, I'll put an information card at the top of the screen here for a penguin. I think I did a penguin in watercolour, so I'll put an information card at the top of the screen for you right now if you'd like to take a look at that. But if there is a particular animal that you'd like to paint, drop it in the comments and just let me know, and maybe I can do a tutorial for you. But in the meantime, let's have a look at this dog and start putting in some tonal value before we finish up with a line and wash, with a line part of the line and wash. So once again, I have burnt umber, and I'm just going to put this where I feel it needs to be a little darker. So I'm applying the paint, cleaning my brush, patting it on the kitchen towel, and just blending it through. We have just used these two colours apart from the red that's underneath. And once more, I'm going to do this in time lapse to speed it up. You saw me there in time lapse just do a little bit more tonal contrast and value, and yet again it's looking a little bit disjointed, but this is where we can make this little dog come to life. I have here a Pilot drawing pen. If you're going to do your line and wash, use any fine liner that you have. This is a 0.1 size, and making sure that your paint is completely dry, we can start to outline this animal like this. So just using the tip of the pen And this is a really good way of sharpening up any edges that you have as well. Really make it obvious that the lines that we're doing are meant to be there. So I'm going to continue this yet again in time lapse for you so that you can see exactly what I'm doing, speed it up. You saw me there going around the outside of the dog with the drawing pen, and I've also sort of drawn in around the eye areas, leaving a little bit of a shine in the center just by leaving the paper white. Continuing the process throughout the entire dog, but what I might do actually is just another line here on the shelf or wherever the dog might be sitting to enhance that bit as well. And you can see how that's really brought the entire thing together. I've added a little bit of shading here just by moving the pen like this, and also if there are any areas that you really want to darken up, you can just colour them in with the drawing pen in this way, adding contrast and tonal value as we go along. But that is pretty much the dog completed. So now back over to me. So thank you for watching, and I really hope that you found this video helpful. And if you enjoyed watching this one, you may also want to watch this video here where I show you how to paint this sweet little elephant in watercolour using a simple technique, again for fast results. If you like this video, do give me a thumbs up. It's a free way of letting YouTube know that you enjoy my content. Thank you for watching, and until next time.